Hey y'all, I'm Rylan. Welcome to my channel. I just wanted to spend a few minutes today talking a little bit about where I've been over the last couple of months, but largely focus on my reading wrap-up from March through now. So I have a sheet of all my notes because I would like to do rapid reviews for these 12 books that I've read since March, and I wanted to just have everything ready and cohesive. That way I don't spend the next 45 minutes rambling and can instead be very concise and proficient about how I do this video, because a lot of these books I have read months ago, and while I would love to do wrap-ups for them, I often forget big things about every book that I read after a couple of weeks simply because I read so many books. So I got bullet points and I'm very excited to go through these books that I've read with y'all. But first, let's talk a little bit about where I've been for the last couple of months. I don't need to give y'all my life story from the last couple of months, but I just want to give some highlights and some very exciting things that have happened that have kind of shifted my priorities over the last few months. I am, of course, however, getting back into the swing of YouTube and just reading in general, so I'm very excited to be starting back up on here again. So March was one of the craziest months that I've had in a long time, in years, I would say, and it was all very good things that happened, but there was just a lot. I had family come into town for several days. I went on a trip with my family for several days. I was in the middle of my own spring break and work was busy, and I also started dating somebody, which is very exciting. It's very sweet, but all of these things combined and happening back to back to back sort of changed my day-to-day schedule. I didn't have as much time to read as I was before, and I can't complain about that because I've had some really great things come from that month, like truly very sweet things, but my priorities did end up shifting in the month of March and continue to shift into April and May, but also I think a large part of why I stopped reading and why I stopped doing videos for a while was because of burnout. I posted, I'm pretty sure, every week last year, twice a week, once or twice a week. Most of the time it was 2 times a week though. I read 100+ books last year. I was on a roll this year as well, sometimes uploading 2 to 3 videos a week, as well as doing live streams and book club things and readathon things, and I think it was bound to happen at some point very soon, and it just happened to hit in March that I ended up falling into a reading slump as well, and experienced burnout when it came to having motivation to do things like videos and social media posts, simply because I had been going for so very long at that point that it was time for a little bit of a break. Not that I wanted to take that break necessarily, but it needed to happen. I lost all motivation to read and film videos and post on social media, and so I just stopped. But I kind of disappeared off the face of the earth, I feel like, and I don't love that I did that. I'm sorry. I feel bad. I kind of left some things on Stasia in terms of like book clubs and readathons, and I'm trying to get back into things. We're gonna get there, but she knows where I've been, so it's all good. But I have been slowly getting back into reading, which is really, really great. And I actually have read a ton this summer and a ton since March. It sounds like because I've read so much for school, but since March, I've read 24 thesis books, and I won't talk about these in this video, although if y'all want to hear what books I've read for my thesis, I can definitely do a quick bullet point wrap up of my thesis reading that I've done over the last several months. I read 24 thesis books. And I have read 12 books for fun from March through July. I did read a few books in March. I read several books in March actually before my slump officially hit around halfway through the month. And then I've read a couple of books every month since then, since May. But compared to what I've been reading in the past, for like the past several years, it's definitely been very slumpy, and I've kind of had to force myself to read some of these books in an attempt to get out of my slump. But I feel like I kind of just stayed very stagnant for a while in terms of my motivation to read. So, super excited to be getting back into things, but I have read 36 books since March. However, 24 of those have been for school, so while they've been kind of enjoyable, some of them, they're not like pleasure reading, if that makes sense, so that kind of sucks. But I am excited to get started on my thesis. That is also a very large part of why my reading has not been as much recently, because I have been so focused on my thesis work. This is like where everything comes to ahead for my program. This is like the big test, I feel like, and I want to do very well with my thesis, and so I've been focusing on that, and it's very exciting. but that has kind of taken up some time. So there's that. But I have also read 12 books since March for fun, although I haven't actually loved most of these books. So that kind of sucks. So that also might contribute to why I've been feeling very slumpy. In terms of like my reading goals for the year, they haven't technically changed. I did take a big break, but I would love to kind of get back into the consistent swing of things. I have beat my reading goal for the year technically because I did put my thesis books on my Goodreads, because I was like, if I'm gonna read 25 books this year just for school, I'm gonna count them all on my Goodreads. So I have achieved my 2024 reading goal, which was to read 52 books. I think I'm currently at 63 or 64 now, which is very exciting. So there's that. I'm also getting back into NetGalley. I have read several NetGalley books since March, so I will be talking about those in a second, and I'll mention which ones were NetGalley arcs. I would also love to get back into like the swing of book budgeting officially. I haven't been purchasing books outside of my book subscriptions or books that I got for the Romance Era Experience, which is a book convention that I got to go to here in Nashville recently. So otherwise I haven't been buying books, and I didn't buy a ton of books ahead of time for that event, but I did buy several books there. A lot of the books that I'd gotten for that event I did already own, or at least like 6 or 7 I think I did already own, which is great. But I did buy a few books over the last couple of months or weeks for that event, and then another romance event that I'm going to in August, but otherwise have not been buying books like I used to, which is good because I wasn't reading books like I had been. So would love to get back into the swing of like book budgeting and just being more conscious about what I am spending my money on. However, I'm not buying books like I used to, so I think that'll be very easy to get back into, and I'm not super worried about that. I'm also unhauling a lot of books as I take stock of what I have, and am being very like cognizant of what I'm going to read now and what I probably won't end up getting to. So all of that has been happening. Going to be getting back in the swing of things with that. I would love to go back to also doing monthly wrap-ups. Even if I don't read a ton every month, I would love to mention the 3 or 4 books that I do get to in a month, and that number may increase once I'm done with my thesis reading, and just get back into like the writing portion, because my brain won't be mush after reading a ton of thesis books back to back to back to back. So all that stuff will hopefully be happening. It'll probably not be uploading as much as I used to in terms of like 2 to 3 videos a week, but my goal is 1 video a week for the foreseeable future, and I think that is very achievable for me. I do have several videos that are either done or in the process of being done, so I should be good in terms of that for a while. But I am so excited to be back. I've missed being here, I've missed talking to y'all, and I'm very excited to be getting back into my swing of things. So let's go ahead and jump really fast into my wrap up from the months of March through mid-July. March was going pretty well until I fell into my reading slump. I did read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books in the month of March. I don't own any of these books anymore, so I'll have the pictures of their covers on the screen next to me. Also, I will just be giving quick bullet points about each book because that's all my brain has the capacity for. Also, I just wanted to mention that I will have all the content warnings for these books listed down below in the description if you'd like to check them out. The first book that I read was Tempt Our Fate by Kat Singleton. This is a romance. I gave it 3 stars. This is a small town, hate to love, kind of, billionaire age gap romance. The next book that I read was I Kissed Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. I also gave this book 3 stars. It is sapphic, it is YA, and it's set in a high school, and there's a mystery / disappearance in this book. After that, I read Finley Donovan is Killing It by Elle Cosimano, and I did give this book 4 stars. This is the very last book that I've given 4 stars since I fell into my slump. Every single book that I've read since this book has been 3 or 2 stars. But really enjoyed this book. It is quirky. It's about a single mom who finds herself in the midst of a bunch of murders. It's a fun mystery. Really enjoyed this one. This one was a NetGalley arc, which is very exciting because I got another NetGalley arc done. The next book that I read was Keep It in the Family by John Mars. This is a mystery that I gave 3 stars. It is multiple POVs. There are bodies in the house, and somebody finds a message that said, "I will save them from the attic." After that, I read And Then She Fell by Alicia Elliott, which I believe I gave 3 stars. It's kind of a contemporary mystery, I want to say, but it's about motherhood and mental health. There's BIPOC rep in it, and the main character is a writer who is trying to tell a version of the creation story. Those are all the books that I read in March. I got 5 completed in that month. In April, I read 2 books, and neither of them were my favorites, so that kind of sucks. First, I read a thriller called Room for Rent. I gave this book 2 stars, but it's about Naya, who is staying in a college house where weird things keep happening. They're very much like mental games that are being played with her, and you have to ask the question like what's real and what's not in this book. Then the second book that I read in April was Never Lie by Frida McFadden. I gave this book 3 stars. There's an isolated house, a psychiatrist who disappeared and left all of her patients' tapes in this house where this couple is attempting to move. And there are secret pasts and lots of plot twists, as Frida McFadden seems to be very well known for. I love the first book that I read by this author, haven't loved any since. But I'm going to keep trying. Her books are very bingeable, they're very quick, so I do find that very nice, but unfortunately I have not loved her books like I thought I would. But we're going to keep trying, I think, for 1 or 2 more. We'll see when I get to them though. I read 0 books in the month of May. I think I technically started one of these books from June in that month, but I didn't finish anything. In June, I read 3 NetGalley arcs, which is very exciting. I have read several NetGalley arcs in the past couple of months, which is very great. I think my NetGalley ratio is up to like 70% now, which is pretty good. That's the highest it's ever been, so I can't complain about that. But the first book that I finished in June was For Your Own Good by Samantha Downing. I gave this book 3 stars. This takes place at a prep school / private school. There are accidental poisonings, and there are very unlikable and unreliable characters in this one. I also read Mr. Magic by Kirsten White, also a NetGalley arc, and I gave this book 3 stars. We do have a supernatural dimension to this book. There is a loss of memory, and you also have to question what's real and what's not when reading this one. The last book that I read in March was a thriller called The Imposter by Marian Montgomery, and I gave this book 2 stars. It does have multiple POVs from mother and daughter. There's psychological manipulation / drugging, and there is secret pasts in this book as well. I unfortunately found it very chaotic and not in a way that I felt like I could really get into, if that makes sense. And then so far in July, it is July 15th right now, I have finished 3 books, but I'm only going to talk about 2 because the third one is for a reading vlog that I'm in the middle of. The first book that I finished was called The House in the Pines, and I gave this book 3 stars. It is also a NetGalley arc. It is about a guy who killed Maya's best friend in high school, and she believes that he's back and still killing people in a very mysterious way. There are unreliable characters and an unreliable plot, and it's very psychological. Then the second book that I have read in July is Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanaugh, and I gave this book 3 stars. We have multiple POVs. The timeline is very blurry, but that plot twist was very exciting when I did get to it. And there are lots of murders, or attempted murders. So, fun time. But that is every single book that I've read since the month of March. I kind of liked the idea of bullet pointing everything. It made me feel very concise in my words, and that was great. That doesn't happen very often, so I can't complain about that. But I have read 12 books since the month of March. Not bad at all. I am very happy about that, all things considered. Did I miss reading even during this time of reading a few books a month? Yes. I definitely was not reading very consistently. It was very scattered, and I didn't love the books that I have been reading, which kind of is sad. But I'm hoping that now that I'm kind of feeling the motivation to be reading more and finding books that like I really am excited to read, I will be able to have some better ratings over the next couple of weeks. Fingers crossed. I don't know, we'll see. Not that 3 stars is bad. 3 stars is very middle of the road, but I don't feel like I've been super like falling in love with any of the books that I've read recently, which is a bummer. But hopefully things change very soon. But that is all that I have for this where I've been / reading wrap up video. If you have read any of these books, feel free to comment down below and let me know what they are and what your thoughts were on them. If you have any video suggestions for me as well, now that I am back on this platform, feel free to comment them down below and let me know. I would love to gather a good list of ideas. I have several videos that are in the works right now that I'm very excited about, but if you all have anything that you would love to see from me, feel free to share those with me. But that is all that I have for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.